I love me some metal. That's why I figured, besides my general list of outstanding albums of 2025, I'm doing this separate list of just metal records because there's just been so many, like pretty much every year, that I absolutely loved. So it was pretty hard to edit it down to kind of a manageable amount of records, but I did my best. And so these are going to be the ones that I really think stood out to me personally. Of course, this is always a very subjective thing to do, and I'm sure as soon as I upload this, I'll think of a record that I should have included, but what you're gonna do. At some point, you just gotta put it out there. I want to start with, please put your favorite records in the comments as well. Every year I end up discovering some great records that I missed throughout the year through other people's or publications year-end lists. So it would be really cool if you put your favorite records in there as well. And I hope you'll find some records here in my little list that you might have missed throughout the year or maybe didn't pay so much attention to. Maybe you revisit them. It would be really cool if we can help each other out in the discovery of the great metal stuff, because there's always so much coming out. It's sometimes pretty hard to keep track of it. We, just real quick, are 22 Sound, an independent record store in Mandeville, Louisiana. That's right outside of New Orleans, if you're not familiar with the area. We do have a lot of metal records. It's always been, since we opened, one of our little things of pride that we really have some cool underground metal here as well. Besides just the big mainstream stuff, we have other stuff, of course, as well. We want to be a widespread store because music is such a great thing. But if you're in the area, come check us out. It would be absolutely cool to see you at the store. Otherwise, if you're a little too far away, check us out online, 22soundrecords.com. You can order the records straight to your home as well. And otherwise, of course, comment, like, subscribe to our channel, follow us on our socials, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We always try to keep you updated with what's coming in the store, but also just stuff that we like, records that we like throughout the year. All right, let's get into this list that I didn't rank specifically, so it's kind of a random order of things, except one. I did decide on that one record that I will call my favorite metal album of the year at the very end of the video. Let's start with Havukruunu, Tavasland. Yeah, may have mispronounced that, but anyway, this is gonna happen a few times here. You know how it is in metal. Anyway, Havukruunu is, I guess you can kind of call it Viking metal, black metal, somewhere in there. Subgenre is always a little difficult to describe that exactly. There is some chanting on this record, and usually I absolutely despise chanting. I can't stand it, but these guys are so great that I actually can deal with the occasional chanting on this record. Luckily, it's not that much of it, even though my wife thought she feels like she's in a castle the other day when I put it on. But what's so cool about this record, I find, is there's just such an effective energy to it here. There's a lot of influences I find of kind of like old school heavy metal, as well as the kind of Viking metal. There's certainly a little bit of a black metal influence as well, but without that bleakness to it. I think there's actually kind of like a positivity to these records. There's some really great solos, really great leads, really great hooks, a lot of really memorable moments on this record. It's really just a blast to listen to. Love their last record. I think this one, it might be actually even a step up of an already great record that came before them. Havukruunu, great stuff. Next up is Drudkh. Hope I'm saying this right, with Shadow Play. This is of course an old band, sorry, no offense, band that's been around for quite a while. I know, not exactly sure where Drudkh is standing politically and so on. I don't really want to get into that. I know there's some questions whether we're allowed to listen to them or not, but I just want to think of this just as a musical thing. Could talk for hours about that other topic of, you know, separating art from the artist or not. But anyway, this is just musically an absolutely great black metal record. I guess in a way you can kind of call it atmospheric black metal, in the sense that black metal should always be atmospheric. That's kind of the point of it, or one of the points of it. One thing that I think they do so well is they they see the value in the simplicity of certain things. They are confident enough to sometimes just stick with a certain chord progression, with a riff, and really kind of let it breathe, let it evolve, and almost kind of like get you in a trance-like mindset with it. I think the best example is The Eve, one of my favorite black metal individual songs of the year. It has like a relatively simple chord progression that kind of carries the whole song, like a very simple keyboard melody in the background, and it just works so well. Simplicity is sometimes a really good thing. Really create a vibe with this, and there's really just that kind of vibe of that band that is really typical for them, that really makes them unmistakably them. Really great record for me, from a band that's been around for very long. So it's impressive that they still put out music that has that kind of emotional intensity that really touches you. Next up is Rivers of Nihil. I have to say, when I first listened to this record, I was a bit disappointed, or I kind of, at very first glance, was a little bit almost too poppy for me. A lot of clean vocals on this record, but I'm really glad I gave it another shot, or I kept listening to it, because they still do have a lot of that kind of progressive complexity to them. There's really a lot happening, a lot of ideas coming together, but I think they really found a great way to kind of combine that complexity with memorability, with really like immediate hooks. So you have that kind of immediate satisfaction, but at the same time, as you listen to it over and over, you find new little things. It keeps you hooked, keeps you entertained. It's really cool. Also how they kind of combine that, you know, just timeless progressive metal with really kind of like a modern touch. This doesn't sound like a record that came out 30 years or so ago. It really sounds like a record of now, and I think that's really cool too. As much as we all love the classic metal in the different little subgenres, I really love when a band really sounds like today, when they can put that in their sound. It's a really great record. Rivers of Nihil, their self-titled album. Next up is Kontusion, in Insatiable Lust for Death. Sorry, I had to check here real quick what the record was called again. This is really just nice, pummeling, aggressive, dark death metal. Absolutely love it. This is just like in your face, crazy riffs, and just like that kind of almost suffocating atmosphere in their aggression. I have to say, there's something cathartic sometimes about records like that. It just kind of washes over you and cleanses you. It's just pummeling, aggressive, but really great stuff. Love this record. Next up is Sepulchre, Psalms unto Caesar. This is probably my favorite old school second wave worshipping black metal record. This could have probably come out in the mid-90s, or maybe I wouldn't be surprised if somebody told me this is like a hidden gem from the mid-90s. And I always think when you do something that is kind of not very innovative, I guess, stylistically, you really have to have great songs, you really have great material, and this is really the case here. This is just a very great showcase of that kind of style that, like I said, kind of a second wave black metal with a lot of melody in there, so kind of like that gateway into that more melodic black metal. A lot of synths on here that I think work absolutely great to just kind of add an extra bit of atmosphere to it. Super cool record. Next up is not a typical record, really kind of a crazy record. Veilburner, Longing for Triumph, Reeking of Tragedy. This is, I saw one blog calling this or tagging it as just weird death metal, and I think that kind of brings it nicely to the point. It's definitely pretty weird. There's like all kinds of stuff going on this record, and it's pretty crazy. You gotta love extreme music to enjoy this, but I really do. I think every time I listen to it, I find something new to it, and something that I might have missed the other way around. So really, replay value is definitely a given on this record. Sometimes when bands are in that kind of weird sphere, I find they sometimes kind of forget to just put in like some head bangable riffs, just like that kind of stuff that gets you banging. They don't. There's really in that all kinds of weirdness with like, you know, kind of unusual time signatures, kind of unusual sounds and so on. They also throw in the occasional just banging riff, and that's just really cool how they do that. Song structures are all over the place. Absolutely great. I really liked the record that came before of them, but I think this is really a step up. They really found like that kind of sweet spot where it's still listenable, still stuff that that's memorable, that hooks you in, but at the same time really just out there, creativity, great stuff. Next up is Ainsoph. I hope I'm saying this right. Affection and Vengeance is the name of this record. This is kind of a goth rock, or I guess goth metal record. Definitely a big gothy overtones in here. The vocals are clean, but they're really like drenched in reverb, very high pitched, and really kind of gives you like kind of like an eerie vibe to it that I think just works really great with the music. That has like kind of like a black metal influence as well, so there's kind of like that intensity of black metal paired with that goth vibe. Really kind of unique combination that they put together here. Not that they're the first ones that combine goth with black metal, but the way they do it I found was really something new, really cool. Really like this record a lot. Next up is one that I'm definitely gonna butcher the name of. It's Asunojokei, maybe. I don't know, it's Japanese. Most song titles are even in Japanese. I'm not gonna be able to tell you any individual songs on there, but I'm an album guy anyway. I usually like to talk about the whole album as a whole anyway. The record is called Think of You. That's in English. Good for me. This is described as kind of like a black gaze post black metal band, which is usually a genre I'm not too keen of. Usually I'm kind of bored with that because I feel like a lot of bands then just kind of meander in this so sad kind of territories, not really like actual riffs on there. Oftentimes just kind of like wall of soundy kind of have riffs, but not with them. There's actually a certain brightness to this record that I absolutely love. A lot of the guitar leads are like barely distorted or even on like cleans, and there's moments where there's even like almost kind of like a funkiness to it. It's really kind of a bright record. Every time I put it on, I just kind of feel great. It's really cool stuff. It's really with an emotional quality too, but the emotion is not just sadness. And I really found they found like kind of like their own little thing, including their kind of J-pop influences, so kind of bringing in their regional flavor that maybe really could only come from Japan. That kind of combination that they came up with, really unique band. It was kind of a surprise hit because I have to say I never heard of them before, but I'll be following them from now on. Then we have Lamp of Murmuur, probably one of the biggest black metal bands at the moment, one that really is in high acclaim around these parts. I have to say, when I listened to the last Lamp of Murmuur record from 2 years ago, I think it was in 23, it just sounded so much like Immortal's At the Heart of Winter, which of course is the best Immortal record, that it really made me want to listen to At the Heart of Winter. That I don't really mean that as a dig, it was really well done, but to me it was a little bit too much exactly like that. Just had immediately thought of that particular record. Crafted really well though. And I know Lamp of Murmuur, of course, with every record, they kind of decide basically, or he, I should say, it's a one-man project. He kind of decides on a certain direction he wants to go with. And I think that's actually kind of cool that every record is very distinct from each other. But I feel like with this record, he really kind of found his own thing and combined a lot of the strengths of the previous ones into his own little mix of genres here. Also a little bit more of synths in here that I think work really well. But I really feel like he kind of found his own here, and to me, definitely the strongest Lamp of Murmuur records so far. Also have to point out some absolutely wonderful guitar solos in here. I'm a guitar solo guy. Absolutely love that. Great stuff, really. Then we already come to the second last of the records here. I said they're all not really ranked in a particular order except the main one, or the number one. I would say, maybe I should say the number two as well. Very close to the first one is An Abstract Illusion, The Sleeping City. This is such a special band. I'm just so impressed with their craftsmanship. I absolutely loved Woe, their 2022 record. It's progressive metal, but really their own kind of brand of progressive metal. I said it before, but really feel that's the truth, or a good way to describe it. They kind of have the perfect combination of brain, soul, and heart. Sometimes progressive metal can be a little brainy, a little bit too calculated, I find, for my taste, and lacks a little bit of emotion. Not with them. This whole thing is really very emotional, really touches you deeply, but at the same time it's crafted so perfectly. You can just tell that every note here has been thought through, every arrangement. It's absolutely great. Also, when you kind of think of it as an expansion of their discography, Woe was absolutely great. This isn't just Woe Part 2. I think they build upon that. If you like that record, I think it's very likely you like this one too, but at the same time it's really distinctively a different record. They went into other directions with this without ever betraying or losing their core sound. So it's kind of the perfect way to follow up a record that was really great. Super cool record, definitely recommend it. And then we come to my number one pick. It's always really hard to pick that one record that you like the most, especially in metal, because it goes into so many different directions, and sometimes you can't really compare them to one another, but still this really stood out to me, and it's Agriculture, the Spiritual Sound. I know there's already some people calling this hipster metal or whatever, and I know they're already getting a little backlash because some publications outside of the metal world really love that record as well. But as a metalhead that you probably are, I'm guessing if you're still watching this, really urge you, if you haven't already, to give this a try, because I really think it's an outstanding record. This is just boundless creativity. Overall, this is a black metal record, I guess. If you had to genre tag it, it would be black metal. It has like that the high-pitched shrieks. A lot of the vocals are shrieks. It has some of those, the tremolo riffs, the blast beats. A lot of those little black metal trademarks are in here, but that's just really one part of the whole thing. There's also some really like meaty riffs on here that you don't really hear in black metal. Often there's some like absolute shredding solos. The guitar player is absolutely amazing, really also from a technical point of view, but what makes him really good is that he uses that sparingly. Every now and then he throws in some stuff that makes you know this guy can do it, but it's always in the service of the song. Absolutely great stuff. I love how they find like little moments that, or create little moments that you think, well, I never heard that before. There's like one little part where it's really just few drum hits, very, very slow, and just a little atmosphere that they're creating in that little moment with just some vocals where they really like pull everything back to almost nothing and then let it explode again. There's one song that is essentially kind of like almost like a folk song. So it sounds like an old folk ballad or something with absolutely amazing clean vocals. Really, what's so great about it is I think metal has been going on for so long. It's hard to sometimes come up with something really new, but they really found a way to carve out their own niche. They have such a wide range, but it all kind of makes sense together. It could be a complete mess when you have so many different influences and trying to put them together into one, but they really found a way to make this all make sense. And it's really a journey that you're going through that is, I know I say the word emotional a lot, but I think that's just very important in music to me. It needs to touch you, and this really does touch you. It's an absolutely amazing record, and I think because it stands out so much, because it's so unique, because nobody sounds like them, to me, if I had to pick one, my number one metal album of the year. All right, as I said initially, I would love to hear from you too. Put in the comments what you really like this year. Would love to find some more stuff, because nothing or few things excite me more than finding new records. So hopefully you found some in this list as well. As I said, please subscribe, follow us, check out our store. It would be absolutely cool if you could support us, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching.